Hey guys, it's Christian, and welcome to another update video for what Marvel Phase 5 needs to do. The reason why I wanted to make this video is because there's just been a lot of additional changes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with projects getting delayed, or projects being moved up in the schedule, or production just being shut down entirely. So I wanted to make this video just so you can stay updated with everything going on in the world of Marvel. So without further ado, let's jump in with
Loki Season 2. I know I talked about it a little bit with my previous video where I wasn't the biggest fan of Loki, so I'm not super excited for Loki Season 2, but I know we're getting one, so I'm hoping that for this one we kind of see more of an explanation of, I guess, the consequences of killing He Who Remains and then the timeline kind of splitting up. Just get more explanation of the multiverse. Kind of like what I was saying before about, was it really bad that we split up the timeline into all these multiverses and all these branch universes and everything, when clearly there's already a multiverse established in Multiverse of Madness? So it's like, okay, did we create the multiverse in Loki, or was it already there? And maybe like these are all the variant universes where different versions of these characters from these multiverses appear. I guess that's just the confusing aspect of Loki, is that like, okay, where did the multiverse start? Who created it? Was it Loki who did it after Sylvie killed He Remains? So I hope they kind of tied that in a little bit more. Kind of like Phase 4, that just didn't really seem like there was like a lot of connective tissue. There wasn't really a through line. There wasn't really like a focal point of like where the multiverse starts and how it spreads out and everything. So yeah, I really hope they kind of just explain that a little bit more. Who knows, maybe Loki Season 2 will just be a fresh start, which I guess they're kind of hinting at the end of Season 1, where like nobody knows who Loki is. Mobius and Renslayer and all them, they kind of like lost their memories of Loki and everything. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Maybe they realize like, oh shoot, we kind of already explained that there's already a multiverse in Multiverse of Madness, so we kind of have to like retcon it in a way and kind of start everything over. So hopefully they talk about that a little bit more, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I guess something I hope to see more is like just more explanation of the TVA, the people who work in it. You know, obviously they're bringing in different actors and everything. The actor who played like Short Round in Indiana Jones is going to be in it. But yeah, I think it'd be really cool if he's like, you know, this new character that kind of teams up with Loki, and I think he's supposed to be some kind of like analyst character or something. So maybe we'll get more explanation of like who the TVA is, what they do, you know, like their history throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and just get more explanation really of like what's going on. Maybe he'll be kind of like the character who explains everything to Loki. You know, maybe he didn't lose his memory, and maybe he and Loki kind of team up, you know, with Mobius and Renslayer and all the Hunter characters, and kind of figure out what's going on, and with Sylvie as well. But yeah, I just hope there's just more tie-ins to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general. You know, maybe they find out about King the Conqueror, and then that's how he kind of gets involved into the Avengers movies, and then maybe Loki becomes an Avenger in a way. That'd be kind of like a cool twist for his character, whereas like in the first Avengers movie, you know, he was obviously the main villain, and now in this movie, if he ends up being in Kang Dynasty, you know, he's actually one of the Avengers and actually helps fight alongside them and like defeat Kang, you know, since he's partially responsible for He Remains being killed and then the multiverse splitting up and Kang in a way kind of rising to power and everything with his variant. Yeah, I think that'd be a really cool tie-in for Loki's character. And yeah, I think this would be a really cool opportunity to kind of give more backstory to He Who Remains / King the Conqueror, since he was first introduced at the end of Season 1 of Loki with He Who Remains, and you know, he was kind of like giving all that exposition to Loki and Sylvie about, you know, the multiverse and him being a conqueror and everything. If there's like a post-credit scene in Loki Season 2 where like Loki meets up with Scott Lang, because we haven't really seen those two together. Like, I guess we kind of technically saw them in Endgame in a way where this whole thing started, where Loki got the Tesseract and then teleported to the desert, and then that's where Loki kind of went off from there. So that was kind of like their only interaction. But yeah, to see more of that tie-in together where like Loki has all this information, and Sylvie too, if they decide to kind of bring her more into the roles and everything, it'd be cool to see those characters all kind of meet up and start to form the new Avengers in a way to take on Kang, since Scott, Hope, Cassie, Hank, and Janet have been facing Kang in the quantum realm, and then Loki and Sylvie facing He Who Remains in, you know, the TVA and everything like that, to kind of have that crossover and have them kind of exchange like, I know this information, you know that information, so now we can kind of work together to defeat Kang, you know, now that he's out and he's conquering everything. I think that'd be really, really cool to have that sort of tie-in and that sort of connected tissues. So we'll see what happens with that, but I think it'd be really, really exciting if they actually do that.
Hey, just jumping in again. I just wanted to address the post-credit scene in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, where Loki and Mobius actually go back in time to like the early 1900s and go to the expo with Victor Timely, which is one of Kang's variants. And there's like theories going around that the presentation that he had is kind of like setting the stage for the TVA, the Time Variant Agency. Obviously, Loki's like very much in shock. So we'll see see how that plays out in Loki season 2. So I'm actually kind of excited for that. I'm glad they're finally kind of addressing all the branch timelines problem that they had at the end of season 1, and they're showing the steps of how they're trying to resolve it. So we'll see. We'll see how this ties in more to Kang Dynasty and Seer Wars, and especially with the other post-credit scene where we see like all the different variants of Kang kind of all assembled together. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm glad that one thing that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania did right was setting the stage for the future of Phase 5 and Phase 6. So we actually got confirmation that the second season of Loki will be dropping on October 6th. Also, there are rumors that Jonathan Majors' role might be reduced significantly in this series just because of all the allegations of abuse charges and everything. So Disney's reportedly taking him out of the marketing just to kind of distance themselves from the trial that's going on with all these allegations. So we'll see what happens. And speaking of which, now there are rumors that if the charges are actually confirmed, that Jonathan Majors might actually be removed as Kang from the MCU and might be replaced by another actor. So we'll see what happens. Disney's kind of in like an awkward position right now with having Jonathan Majors being the face of the MCU, being like the brand new villain and everything, setting up Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. So they're definitely gonna have to have some backup plans moving forward, just in case these charges are brought to light and Jonathan Majors is sent to prison for his accusations and everything. So we'll see what happens, but I mean, hopefully the allegations aren't true and that he's proven innocent, that he can continue to be Kang throughout the rest of the MCU, and that his presence in Loki season 2 will, continue to be what it is. But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens on October 6th. But yeah, that's only the real update with that one. Hey, jumping in. So we actually just got a bunch of updates for Loki season 2. We finally got a new trailer and it actually looks pretty good. As I said before, I wasn't really the biggest fan of the first season of Loki, but I think this trailer really makes up for it. I think the biggest problem I had with the first season is just that the consequences of Loki and Sylvie killing He Who Remains and having the sacred timeline splitting up, it just wasn't really a lot of repercussions within the greater MCU. So I'm glad in this trailer it really shows the consequences of those actions, especially with the concept of Loki time splitting. And really love the fact that they have Huey Kwan from Everything Everywhere All at Once in this show, and he's kind of playing the same character he does from that movie. So I'm actually really excited for it. And it looks like after the events of Loki, when Loki comes back to the present, He Remains, or King the Conqueror, is now in power, and Loki really has to find out what's going on and why he's time splitting and going from past to present. And it looks like in the official summary it's going to be about the battle for the soul of the TVA, and that Loki has to team up with Mobius and Hunter B-15 in order to find Sylvie and Renslayer and Miss Minutes. And it looks like they're going to be in a bunch of different timelines. So it looks like she's going to be in a 1982 McDonald's working as a cashier. So I think that'd be kind of interesting. I was reading reports that the showrunners really cared about the character of Sylvie, and they were thinking that she's always jumping in between these different timelines and all these different apocalypses, and like, what would she do? Well, she'd probably be hungry, so maybe she'd work at a McDonald's. And the fact that McDonald's is kind of like a safe haven for a lot of people and like a lot of like nostalgia for a lot of people, they figure that she'd be working at McDonald's. So that'd be interesting to see how that factors in. And speaking of time periods, I saw in the trailer there's like a couple of clips of the different characters in their different time periods. Like Renslayer was in a Victoria style dress, and Miss Minutes looks like she had a white color and she was kind of growing into like a Stay Puft monster from Ghostbusters or something. So that'd be really interesting. And according to Marvel, it looks like all the cast from season 1 is going to be returning, like Eugene Cordero as Casey and Jonathan Majors as Victor Timely. And I really think it was a smart approach for Marvel to kind of reduce his role in the trailer, especially with all the controversies with the domestic abuse charges. So I don't think anything's really been settled with that whole case. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll get a verdict, and kind of like I said before, I'm hoping that he's proven innocent and that his role as King the Conqueror can continue into King Dynasty and Secret Wars. So we'll see what happens. And apparently he's supposed to be in half the episodes for Loki season 2, so we'll see how his role becomes within the show and everything. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. And then as far as new characters, there's an actor named Raphael Castle, and he's playing a character named Brad Wolf, and apparently he's supposed to be a TVA prisoner. And then I guess his variant is an actor who stars in a movie called Zaniac. And then a couple other actors have been cast in undisclosed roles: Kate Dickey, Liz Carr, Neil Ellis as Hunter D90. So yeah, overall I think I'm a little bit more excited for Loki season 2 than I was previously, especially with this new trailer. They're really picking up hints from like the whole concept of the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse story concept of when you go to another universe, like kind of glitch out and everything because you don't belong there. So that'd be interesting to see in live action. But yeah, we'll see what happens with it. I'm hoping that's good. As I said before, I wasn't the biggest fan of Loki season 1, but I think the writers and the directors have really kind of taken the criticism that some people had with season 1 and really addressed those issues in this new season. So I'm really hoping that they do that with this one, and hopefully this will be an upswing for Disney Plus shows on Marvel, because Secret Invasion was a bit of a disappointment, to put it lightly. So yeah, Marvel really needs a win with their MCU Disney Plus shows, and especially the fact that this is the first season 2 for the MCU for a Disney Plus show, I think is really telling. So I guess it just goes to show like how good Tom Hiddleston is and Owen Owen Wilson, all these other actors and writers and directors. So yeah, fingers crossed that it's good, and yeah, we'll see what happens with it.
All right, now we move on to the Marvels. And with this one, I'm pretty excited for. Not super crazy excited, but I think it could be interesting. I think the thing that's kind of drawing me to it the most is the whole switcheroo aspect, where at the end of Miss Marvel, she tries to activate her powers and then she suddenly transported somewhere else, and then Carol Danvers' character kind of gets teleported to her dimension. I think that'd be a really cool twist. I know eventually they'll all kind of group together and, be the Marvels and everything, but to have maybe the first act of this movie kind of be kind of like the switcheroo that these characters are going through, be a really fun aspect and kind of get fans on board with this storyline and everything. But yeah, I think the thing that I'm most excited for is kind of seeing these characters in unfamiliar situations, seeing Captain Marvel suddenly in this teenage girl's bedroom in New Jersey. It's like, wait, what the heck is going on? I think something that Marvel should do, which I'm hoping they do with Captain Marvel's character, is kind of humble her character down a little bit more, just because, especially in Endgame and kind of in Captain Marvel, she's kind of this OP character, this overpowered character where she can kind of just swoop in and take down Thanos' ships. She's kind of the Hail Mary of the Avengers, can hold her own, go toe-to-toe with Thanos and everything. With Captain Marvel, it wasn't my favorite movie, and she's not my favorite character. She's obviously a very strong character, which is great, but I feel that's kind of the only aspect to her character. She's just strong, and that's it. I really liked more of the flawed characters, like Black Widow or Gamora, Hope Van Dyne, Wanda. They have a full personality, the three-dimensional personality, where they can be vulnerable, they can be flawed, they can make mistakes and stuff like that. And with Captain Marvel, she's kind of perfect in a way. She's confident, she doesn't make any mistakes, she's overpowered and everything. So I think kind of bringing her character down, so to speak, bringing her into an unfamiliar situation, and then having her team up with these two different heroes would be really, really cool for a character. But yeah, speaking of which, I think seeing Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, in this movie, she's supposed to switch places with Monica Rambeau, and then suddenly she's in space. So talk about unfamiliar situations where, suddenly you're in your bedroom in New Jersey, and then suddenly you're in an astronaut suit in space. So I think that'd be really fun for her character as well. Kind of a fan service moment for her where, she's idolizing Captain Marvel, and then suddenly she finally gets to work with her in a way. So I think that'd be really cool, and kind of a lesson of don't meet your heroes, where on one side you have Miss Marvel kind of idolizing Captain Marvel clearly, and then maybe she finally meets her and it's oh, you're not really who I thought you were going to be, and then having to deal with, I guess, disappointment in a way of meeting your heroes, and then kind of gradually learning to work with them and understand them a little bit more of who they are and why they do what they do. So I think that'd be a good maturing aspect for Miss Marvel, and kind of set her up for Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars of learning to be a team player, learning to see people who they really are and not necessarily how you kind of see them in your mind's eye and everything. So I think that would be cool for her character. And then on the flip side with Monica Rambeau, where there's some tension between her and Captain Marvel, which we don't really see too much. It gets kind of hinted at in WandaVision. We don't really see it in fruition. So once we kind of put those two characters together, I think would be really interesting, kind of see that conflict where it's opposite Miss Marvel, where it's I don't idolize this person, but suddenly I have to work with them in a way. So I think that'd be really interesting, seeing those two get together and team up. But yeah, I'm actually kind of excited for this movie. I wasn't the biggest fan of Captain Marvel, so when it was going to be Captain Marvel 2, I was okay, yeah, of course, because I know it made $1 billion at the box office, so you got to make a sequel. But to kind of bring in Miss Marvel, bring in Monica Rambeau, kind of add to this dynamic and be the Marvels instead of just Captain Marvel 2, gets me really excited. And then, like I said before, the whole switcheroo of characters transferring to different locations of where the previous Captain Marvel was, and then all of them kind of coming together for this conflict. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that, looking forward to the team aspect, and then the character arcs that the three women are going to be going through will be really interesting. So yeah, I'm actually pretty excited for it, so we'll see how it goes.
So we actually got quite a bit of updates from the Marvels. We actually got a trailer that just dropped announcing that it'll be coming out on November 10th, and it looks like the rumors that were announced several months back are true, that Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and Monica Rambeau will be kind of having a switcheroo every time they activate their powers, and they have to work together to find out what's going on. We also got confirmation on a couple of the cast members. An actress named Zoe Ashton is going to be playing a character named Dar Ben. She's going to be playing a Kree warrior who wields Ronan the Accuser's hammer, and nothing's really confirmed beyond that. I'm guessing she's going to find out about Ronan the Accuser's death from the Guardians in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and she's going to be kind of on a vengeance quest to get rid of all the Marvel heroes, including Captain Marvel, which kind of sets up the premise for this movie, because Carol Danvers is going to be investigating a Kree wormhole, and that kind of sets all these events in motion. We also got confirmation on another actor named Park Seo-joon, and I saw him in the trailer. He looks like he might be playing some kind of henchman or something, some kind of boots on the ground warrior character. We also got confirmation that the actors who played Kamala's mother, father, and brother are going to be in the movie as well. Also, Lashana Lynch, who played Maria Rambeau from the first Captain Marvel, is going to be in it, and Randall Park is Jimmy Woo from WandaVision. We also got confirmation on an actor named Daniel Ings, who's going to be playing a character named Tyrone, and it looks like he's going to be kind of like the right-hand man to Darben's character. We also got confirmation on an actor named Colin Stonley, who's going to be playing a character named Pap Tone, who's going to be a Kree scientist, as well as Goose the Cat, who's a Flurkin who resembled a cat from the first Captain Marvel movie.
Oh yeah, and lastly, hopefully they'll have more of like a Nick Fury tie-in, like what he's doing with the Skrulls, and then kind of setting up this new Avengers aspect. Obviously, he was in the first Captain Marvel movie, and he has a relationship with Captain Marvel and with Talos and the Skrulls. So it'd be nice if maybe there's like a little tie-in at the end of this movie that kind of ties back into Secret Invasion, because chronologically Secret Invasion comes first, and then we kind of get more of like Nick Fury's role in the MCU, just because based on like the lineup that we have right now for Phase 5, it seems like he's going to have like a really significant role. It's nice to see Nick Fury kind of like a bigger player in the MCU like he was in Phases 1 through 3, and kind of set up this next generation of Avengers to kind of set the stage for Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that, but at least for now, if they do end up killing him off, they have more than enough heroes to take on Kang and Kang Dynasty. So we'll see what happens with that, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of mention that briefly.
Hey, jumping in again. So we actually got a couple updates with the Marvels. It looks like we had a new trailer, which had a lot more footage, especially with the whole story element of the 3 characters switching places every time they use their powers. And it looks like Darben is definitely going to be at the center of it all, especially since she has the other bangle. And if you watched Miss Marvel, you noticed that Kamala Khan actually had the other bangle, so it'd be interesting to see how that whole dynamic plays out. So I was reading an article by the director, and she was saying that that'll all be explained, how she got the bangle and how that ties into Kamala Khan's character, and how that kind of sparks this whole switcheroo concept of the characters switching places every time they use their powers. One thing I am excited for with the Marvels is the fact that we're really going to get into more of the origin of Captain Marvel, because in the first Captain Marvel movie, like they kind of cut back and forth between past and present, and you didn't really get to see the transition of after Carol Danvers' accident to becoming Captain Marvel, so you didn't really see that transition of like her struggling with her powers or her trying to figure out her relationship in the whole MCU. She's just kind of gets her powers and then she's this amazing OP character, so it'd be interesting to see kind of that transition and everything. And you know, the fact, like I said earlier, that she's going to be paired with these 2 different heroes, one who like absolutely admires her and then someone who has a lot of tension with her. It'd be nice to see like a more well-rounded character for Captain Marvel, so that's what I'm really excited to see with the Marvels. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, it looks pretty fun. You know, I don't know if necessarily I'm gonna go see it in theaters. I think I might wait for Disney Plus, just because like I've been saying earlier, the movies have been kind of hit or miss. Like the only really good movie so far in Phase 5 has been Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and that's really more self-contained. It doesn't really have to do with the larger MCU. So I'm a little bit hesitant of seeing it in theaters. Like I'll probably just wait for reviews to come out to see if it's actually good. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing it. I think the one downside about it is that 2 out of 3 characters are from Disney Plus series, and people who like a couple of my friends like haven't seen Miss Marvel or they haven't seen WandaVision, so they'll be kind of confused. They'll be like, okay, who's Kamala Khan? Like, who is Monica Rambeau? Like, who are these characters? And a lot of people aren't the biggest fan of Captain Marvel, including me. So I don't know if this will be a huge blockbuster, but you know, like I say earlier, Captain Marvel made $1 billion, so maybe the sequel is guaranteed to make $1 billion too. Who knows? Especially with the kind of, like I said earlier, like the whole hit or miss track record with the Marvel films. Like, I don't know if this will be super successful, but hoping that I'm wrong, hoping that's good, and we'll see what happens with it.
All right, and then we move on to What If Season 2. I wasn't the hugest fan of What If. I thought a handful of episodes were really great. I thought like the Doctor Strange episode was obviously the best one, and then maybe like the finale with the Guardians of the Multiverse was pretty cool, and even like the Captain Carter episode was also really cool as well. I think it was nice that they set up a lot of the events in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, where we saw Dark Doctor Strange or Doctor Strange Supreme. We saw Captain Carter in the Illuminati, or at least that Dimensions version of Illuminati. So yeah, so it's kind of nice to see that this wasn't just like a self-contained show or anything, but that it really kind of tied in to the deeper Marvel Cinematic Universe. So yeah, I appreciate that. When it comes to Season 2, I'm not like overwhelmingly excited, and especially since we don't really know what the episodes are going to be or anything, but I think one of them they announced is like Captain Carter goes against Steve Rogers when he's in that kind of mech suit and everything, so I think that could be pretty cool. I hope they kind of further explore the Guardians of the Multiverse, and then maybe have more Doctor Strange Supreme. I'm also excited for more of the Watcher. I hope they give kind of more explanation for him. Maybe they kind of talk more about the multiverse, kind of round out the events that were in Quantumania, and then kind of set up Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars with that. And another thing that I'm really excited for What If is just kind of more, obviously, what if scenarios with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know with the first season, they kind of centered around Phase 1, all the Phase 1 kind of Avengers characters. So it'd be kind of nice to see more kind of like Phase 2 and 3. Maybe like what if Thanos won at the end of Endgame or something, or what if the Avengers got tempted by all the Infinity Stones or something and it became evil, something like that. But yeah, just like other kind of what if scenarios. I know they're going to do like a Marvel Zombies, which I thought was like a fine episode. But yeah, we'll see if they do like a longer special, kind of like what they did with Werewolf by Night and Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, where they kind of have like, instead of just like a 30-minute episode, they'll do like a 55-minute special. So I think that could be cool. I haven't read that comic. I know it's based on like a comic storyline, but yeah, I think it can be kind of cool, like a Walking Dead in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So we'll see what happens with that one. And I know there was like another episode that was, I think was cut from season 1 because of, COVID happened and they weren't able to finish production quickly enough with all the delays and stuff. So I think there's like a Gamora Tony Stark episode. And then after watching season 1, I noticed that there was kind of like a missing piece to that where like Gamora and Tony kind of show up and everything. It's like, oh, where'd they come from? Because they were on their separate adventure. So it'd be nice to finally see that episode play out. But yeah, overall, I think What If's like a fun concept. I think if they really delve more deeply into the multiverse and, the Watcher and kind of set up future Avengers films with this show, I think it'd be really cool. Maybe have more like serialization with the show instead of having a bunch of one-offs and everything. I don't mind like one-offs within What If and everything, but I just hope that there's more like, serialization, more connective tissue within the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe instead of just like, oh, this is just like a fun, one and done episode. Oh yeah, and then lastly, I think it'd be nice to see more of like what if the Watcher interfered with different events, because I know he's supposed to be, the Watcher, he's supposed to be observant of what's going on and he's not supposed to get involved with certain aspects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it'd be nice if, he broke his oath every once in a while and we get more consequences of his actions. If he like interfered with like the first Avengers movie or like, with Age of Ultron or something and get more kind of like repercussions of his actions, I think that would be really cool. And then, maybe if he pops up in an actual live action Marvel movie, I think that would be cool to, see Jeffrey Wright in his Watcher garb and everything. Because I know they showed a little hint at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 of the Watcher with Stan Lee. It's like talking to the Watcher. So we've seen live action Watchers, so yeah, it'd be nice to see Jeffrey Wright in one of them and then see how that kind of ties into the larger MCU. All right, and then we move on to Echo. This one I'm pretty excited for. I'm not like super overwhelmingly excited about it. I really like the character of Maya Lopez in Hawkeye. I thought she was a really interesting character, not only the fact that she's deaf, but she's also, like an amputee and she's Native American. I think bringing in those kind of demographics into the MCU would be really, really cool. But yeah, I'm really excited to see it. I think one of the biggest things I'm most excited to see is the fallout after the events of Hawkeye, where, or spoiler alert, she took the gun and like shot Kingpin, and I guess he survived because, the camera pans up. We don't technically see what happened to him, but I guess news reports are saying that, he's going to be blinded, at least in one eye, and then he survived and got away. So it'd be nice to see what, what happened to him, set up the seeds for Daredevil Born Again. So I'm also excited. But as for this one, this one's supposed to center around Echo's familial ties to the Native American culture, and I think that would be really cool because that's something we haven't really seen in Marvel Cinematic Universe, is kind of like Native American culture or just, films in general. We don't really see a lot of that. So it'd be kind of nice to see how she kind of goes from, the head of the tracksuit mafia and then kind of coming back into kind of this normal life on this Native American reserve and everything. Obviously, she's going to kind of be drawn back into the action because, Kingpin's not going to like lay down quietly and everything. He's obviously going to come back and retaliate. It'd be really cool to see how she's trying to adjust back to her culture, and then suddenly this impending threat comes on to her land and her people, and she has to really become like a hero. I'm not really sure how it's going to tie into like the overall Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like I assume she's going to be a hero and then fight alongside the Avengers and everything. But yeah, I guess that's the only thing, is like I don't really know if this is going to be more self-contained or if this is going to like really lead into Secret Wars and King Dynasty. Like honestly, I'm not really familiar with her character at all in the comic books, so correct me if I'm wrong if she's more front and center in the comic books and everything. But at least as far as the movies and films and stuff, I'm not really sure how she's going to tie in. Like maybe there'll be like a cameo from Hawkeye or from Kate Bishop's character, and they kind of like tell her about the Avengers, like, oh, there's this initiative and we need more recruits. So I think that'd be cool because like she was a really interesting character in Hawkeye. Yeah, she kicked a lot of butt and took a lot of names. So yeah, I think she'll definitely be a formidable opponent to whoever she takes on in any films or series moving forward. I hope they go more into her past and everything, her relationship with Kingpin and the Tracksuit Mafia. I know they kind of hinted at it a little bit in Hawkeye, but kind of like Secret Invasion, maybe they'll do extended flashbacks to how she got involved in this mafia and how she kind of rose up in the ranks a little bit, kind of explain more of like her family, explain more of her father, explain more of like the betrayal of Kingpin to her father and the whole kind of revenge aspect to that. But yeah, just get more of like who Maya is as a person, how she deals with, being deaf, how she deals with, being an amputee, obviously being, Native American culture. Because, we didn't really get a ton in Hawkeye, which is understandable. It was about Hawkeye and it was about Kate Bishop, and she was kind of more of like a side character in that. But she was definitely interesting. So, I'm looking forward to see just more of her, more of like a show that just centers around her. It'd be cool to see more like ASL in the show as well. Just kind of like bringing, the deaf community and everything. So, I'm looking forward to her character. I think she's just very, very interesting. Like I said before, I don't really know too much about her from comic books, but so we'll see what happens with the show. I'll give more explanation to her, and we'll see. I know there's going to be like a possible storyline with Matt Murdock searching for Jessica Jones, which would be amazing, just because clearly Daredevil is like one of my favorite series. Like the Netflix Daredevil, like those first 3 seasons were amazing. Jessica Jones was fine in my opinion. Definitely wasn't as great as Daredevil. That was definitely the highlight. But seeing them kind of bring in the Netflix Marvel heroes into the show would be really, really cool, especially Jessica Jones, because like even though like I wasn't a huge fan of the show, I thought Jessica Jones as a character was great. So kind of seeing her brought into the Marvel Cinematic Universe now with Matt Murdock, with the MCU's version of Matt Murdock, would be really, really fun. And then maybe if they bring in more like like Luke Cage, maybe Iron Fist, bring in the Defenders, maybe that can be like the storyline for Daredevil boarding. But I know that's going to be like a little hint for that show. So we'll see if they do that. But I think that'd be really cool to kind of bring in those characters a little bit more of like the darker Avengers characters into the MCU. But overall I'm excited for Echo. I think she's a really interesting character, and I look forward to seeing her have her own series and how she kind of ties into the overall Marvel Cinematic Universe in general.
So we actually got a couple updates for Echo. The first one is that it actually got confirmed to be coming out on November 29th of this year, and apparently it's going to be dropping all of its entirety on the same day. So there's been kind of rumors that either Disney's trying to switch to a model where they put all the episodes on at once, kind of like Netflix, but there's also other rumors that the show might not be that great, so they're just trying to drop it all at once so they don't have to kind of stretch it along for several weeks at a time, kind of like with She-Hulk, where if you want to hear my thoughts on that, you can watch that previous video. But obviously that show wasn't really that great for me and a lot of other people as well. So I'm sure like Disney and Marvel are trying to cut down on all like the hate that they might get by stretching on a show for several weeks at a time and try to put all down at once. Because as of this recording, there's been a lot of like more shakeup at Disney, especially with Disney Plus, of like Bob Iger and a lot of the other kind of higher ups are taking shows off the platform just so they don't have to pay for residuals to the creators by having a show on Disney Plus that no one's really watching. So maybe this is kind of like their experiment with that to see like if people like Echo, maybe they'll keep it on the platform, but if they don't, everything was all just in its entirety, and then people don't like it, they'll just kind of boot it off. But we'll see. We still have several months until the show actually drops, but that's really the only kind of updates with that show. Hey, just something again. So I actually forgot to mention in my previous videos about Deadpool 3, I actually honestly didn't even know that I was going to be officially part of the MCU. I know that Marvel acquired Deadpool 3 and everything, but I didn't know it was going to be part of the larger MCU. So that's going to be really, really exciting. I was actually a really big fan of the first 2 Deadpool movies, so it's going to be really interesting seeing that character within the MCU. And according to Bob Iger, he's going to keep the R rating for Deadpool 3, so that's going to be really cool. So Ryan Reynolds is just going to do whatever he wants for Deadpool 3. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of like meta humor and bashing of the multiverse and I guess maybe like the up and down quality of the MCU Phase 5 and everything, and the fact that Disney bought Fox and all that stuff. So I'm actually really excited for it. I guess the only downside is that due to the writer's strike and the actor's strike, production got shut down on it, and originally it was supposed to come out in May of next year, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't really know how long this writer's strike is going to last. As of this recording, the Producers Guild of America actually presented their counter arguments of what they're willing to give the writers and actors as compensation and everything based on the demands that they've given because of the strikes. And I guess apparently the writers didn't really agree, so who knows, maybe the strike will last longer. But I don't think it's gonna hit its May release date, but we'll see what happens. But other than that, before the whole shutdown, it looked really, really good. I know Hugh Jackman's been confirmed to be returning as Wolverine in this movie, so that's gonna be really cool. And then all those set photos of him in the yellow suit, because that was like one of the downsides of the original X-Men movies, is that he was always in a black suit or like a black suit with little yellow hints in it. But with this movie, they're gonna just go all out with the original yellow Wolverine costume, so I think that's gonna be really cool. So I'm really excited to see that. And it looks like all the original cast members from the previous Deadpool movies are gonna be returning as well, like Miranda Baccarin as Vanessa, Brana Hildebrand as Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Leslie Uggams as Blind Owl, Karan Sori as Dupinder, Stefan Kapikik, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, as the voice of Colossus, Sheila Kusuna as Yukio, Rob Delaney as Peter, and then additionally Jennifer Garner has been cast as Elektra. And I haven't seen the original Elektra movie, but it was a pretty historical event at that time because a lot of women didn't have lead roles in superhero movies. So even though the movie didn't do well, I'm glad that she was able to kind of pave the way for female-led superhero movies. So I think that's really cool that they're going to bring her back into the fold here. And kind of like what I said earlier, I'm sure they're going to have a lot of meta references to the whole multiverse multiverse and that they're bringing all these different characters from all these different Fox movies into the MCU via Deadpool. So who knows if there'll be more surprise cameos from other Fox movies, or if Ben Affleck will cameo as Daredevil. Probably not. Probably Matt Murdock. But yeah, we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, overall, I'm excited for Deadpool 3 with this whole actor strike and writer strike. Who knows when we'll see it, but hopefully we'll get it soon. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, definitely excited for Deadpool 3.
All right, now we move on to Captain America: New World Order, another one that I'm really excited for. As I said to come before in my previous video, Falcon and Winter Soldier I thought was fine. It really could have just been a movie, in my opinion. So I'm glad that for New World Order, that's actually is going to be a movie, which I think is totally going to, continue the storyline they left off at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, where, Sam Wilson is kind of accepting the mantle as this new Captain America, and now, he's the Black Captain America, and then all the baggage that comes with that. So I think that's going to be really cool to explore. And then, the kind of aspect of the fake news and everything being in this New World Order, and kind of seeing him deal with that would be really, really fun to explore. And then obviously the side characters, like the new Falcon, Joaquin Torres, who will be Sam Wilson's kind of sidekick, kind of seeing how he kind of deals with being in this role. And then obviously Isaiah Bradley, I'm hoping that he'll become a really cool mentor figure for Sam Wilson of hey, we may be this Black Captain America and everything, but here's all the baggage that comes with it. Because me, I dealt with being a super soldier and then, kind of was experimenting on, and then kind of got casted aside, which they hinted at in Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm excited to see him kind of brought into a New World Order as this kind of mentor figure to Sam Wilson, and kind of as he kind of deals with this new role of being the new Captain America and everything that comes with that. And I'm also excited to see Samuel Stern, aka the leader in this movie, because I know he was hinted at way back in the day in The Incredible Hulk. So it'd be kind of nice to finally see him brought into the MCU again, just because there's a lot of characters that they had from The Incredible Hulk. They kind of just left on the sidelines, but then slowly but surely they started bringing them in, Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, Abomination, Emil Blonsky, kind of bringing all these characters back in. So it's kind of nice to see hey, Incredible Hulk is actually relevant to the MCU, because I know they hinted at his character at the end of Incredible Hulk, where it's his head knocked against the machine, and the little serum is kind of going into his injury and everything, and then his head's expanding. So it'd be nice to see that. Again, I don't really know too much about the leader from the comic series, but just seeing that little hint at the end of Incredible Hulk seems oh shoot, this guy is a little loco. So yeah, it'd be cool to see how he kind of ties into the MCU, how he ties into Sam Wilson's storyline, and how he becomes either antagonistic or an ally, and how he kind of fits into the tone that they're trying to set with this movie.
So we actually got confirmation on a couple of cast members for Captain America: New World Order. There's an actress named Shira Haas who's going to be playing a character named Sabra, who's going to be an Israeli superheroine. So I'm guessing she's going to ally with Captain America, and they're going to be kind of trying to face this New World Order with all the villains and everything. And then we actually got confirmation that Liv Tyler's going to be in it, and she played the character of Betty Ross in The Incredible Hulk. So kind of like what I was saying earlier in the video of how Marvel's kind of making The Incredible Hulk relevant again by bringing all these actors back. So it'd be really cool to see her role in this, and maybe we'll get a Bruce Banner cameo in it or something, but it'd be really cool to kind of see those characters from that movie back in 2008 brought back into the MCU.
And then one final thing, maybe they'll have more of Thunderbolts hint. Maybe it'll be a post-credit scene, kind of set up that movie, because Bucky Barnes is going to be in Thunderbolts, as well as Sam Wilson and Val, and they were all characters from Falcon and Winter Soldier. Kind of cool to see connective tissue between those two movies as well. Kind of see hey, yeah, whatever happened to Bucky, maybe this can be a post-credit scene to set up the Thunderbolts. So yeah, it'd be nice to see that. Yeah, and also be cool to see Harrison Ford replacing William Hurt as Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross as well. Just because obviously I'm a big Harrison Ford fan. Han Solo, Indiana Jones, Blade Runner, everything. He's great. So to see him in the MCU would be really cool, since he's already technically part of the Disney family. So to see his debut as Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross would be really cool. And then maybe if they have a hint at Red Hulk, because I know that's a big aspect in the comic books. I don't know if they'll do it, because I know they don't technically have the complete rights to the Hulk. Maybe down the road or something, since at the end of She-Hulk they hinted at a World War Hulk or a Planet Hulk storyline with Scar and with Bruce Banner. So maybe we'll see what happens with that, and if they ever do a second season of She-Hulk, which if they do it, maybe they'll hint at Red Hulk for that one as well. Again, that's all speculation. They probably won't do it. Maybe they'll have a hint of it, and then maybe they'll save it for Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars or something, the idea of a Red Hulk, which would be kind of cool. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But overall, I'm really excited for Captain America: New World Order. It'd be really cool to see just a new Captain America, not only just the next Captain America movie, but just a new Captain America with Sam Wilson in that role, because he was great ever since Winter Soldier onwards, just being really loyal to Steve Rogers and respecting his legacy. Because Steve Rogers, Captain America, is my favorite character in Marvel phases 1 through 3. And then Sam Wilson is clearly the best man for the job. I know Bucky was also kind of in the running for that, but clearly he's a murderer over, so maybe that's not the best person to replace you. So yeah, I think Sam Wilson's definitely the best person for the job, and I've been looking forward to seeing him as a new Cap since the end of Endgame with that whole tag at the end, and then seeing his arc in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then finally resolving in Captain America New World Order, seeing like the fallout and all the baggage that comes with being the new Captain America. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that one. I think it can be really good.
Hey, jumping in again. So the only real update is the title change. It's going to be Captain America Brave New World instead of Captain America New World Order. And I actually think that's a better title because New World Order just seems very negative and just very paranoia and like government control and all this stuff. But with Brave New World, it really seems like more positive. Like obviously with Sam Wilson being a black Captain America, he wants to have a brave new world, you know, with him, not only the new Captain America, but a black Captain America, like I said earlier. But yeah, I think that overall it's a really good title, and you know, yeah, I can't wait to see it. And the only other update is that now it's been pushed to July 26, 2024, you know, obviously due to the writer's strike. They actually finished filming in June, so they're actually able to finish right before the actor's strike. But now they can't really do any reshoots, so hopefully they got everything they wanted while they were filming principal photography. And yeah, now we'll see what happens in July. But yeah, hopefully it's good, and yeah, I'm actually really excited for it.
All right, then we move on to Agatha, Coven of Chaos. You know, I liked Agatha in WandaVision. I liked her up until like episode 8. Episode 9 she kind of became like the typical Marvel villain of, you know, like throwing her her purple energy at Wanda and became just like this big CGI battle. Well, I think it would have been interesting if at the end of episode 8 of WandaVision, instead of her becoming like the main villain, you know, fighting Wanda, maybe she became Wanda's kind of dark mentor in a way, and like she introduces more of like the Darkhold. She kind of snaps Wanda back to reality. It's like, hey, you know, you created this reality in Westview with, you know, this fake Vision and fake Tommy and Billy, but hey, I can tell you about a dimension where you can visit the true forms of Billy and Tommy. You can be with them, and that could have been a cool episode 8 twist where, you know, they actually have to form an alliance to kind of figure out more of like the dark magic and, you know, have her become the Scarlet Witch and, you know, tap into like the dark side and, you know, tap into like those, you know, multiverse aspects and everything. So I thought that would have been cool. Though it didn't happen. She they kind of had their big battle, and then Wanda turned her back into Agnes when she was like this normal nosy neighbor and everything. So it'd be interesting how they're going to tie that in. I don't know if it's going to be a sequel or a prequel. You know, if it's a sequel, then they'll have some things to figure out. But if it's a prequel, I really like the flashback episode in WandaVision where they showed how Agatha became, you know, this dark witch and, you know, just wiped out all these other witches and everything. So if they have a series just kind of explain like her origin, you know, how she became this dark witch, you know, how she got a hold of like the Darkhold, how she kind of sensed Wanda, I think that would be really, really cool. We'll see what happens with that if it's a prequel. But if it's a sequel, which I think it might be, honestly, I don't really know where they would go with it. But yeah, I love Kathryn Hahn. You know, she's a great actress. I mean, I loved her back since Parks and Recreation. Her character in that I thought she was great. And then obviously all the comics that she's in, like Anchorman, and even in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where she played Doc Ock, that version of Doc Ock, I thought she was great. So I mean, whatever she's in, I'm game for it. It just depends on what the story is. Yeah, because I know I was looking at the casting, and like Dottie Jones, kind of like the blonde woman in WandaVision, is supposed to be in it. So I don't really know what she's going to be doing. Maybe she turns out to be like a dark witch or something, and she becomes like an apprentice. I don't really know. So yeah, like I said, I don't really have too much expectations for Agatha, Coven of Chaos, but I think if they lean into the prequel aspect, more of her backstory, I think that would be an amazing show. But if it is a sequel, then yeah, they have some figuring out to do. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens with that one.
Hey, just jump back in with another update. So I found out that a bunch of actors have just been confirmed for Agatha, Coven of Chaos. Deborah Jo Rupp, who played Sharon Davis, aka Mrs. Hart, is going to be in the role as well, and that a bunch of Westview characters are going to be in it too. I also found out that the actress who played Agatha's mother in the flashback scene of WandaVision during that whole like Coven scene is going to be in it as well. And then just like a bunch of other actors are going to be in it too. I'm playing Aubrey Plaza, which is going to be awesome. I hope that she plays like a witch character or something. That'd be really cool. So yeah, it kind of gives me more grounding of like what the story could potentially be. I'm sure the spell on Agatha is like broken or something. Maybe after Wanda, you know, spoilers for Doctor Strange Multiverse Madness, she gets killed off. So maybe due to her being killed off, the spell kind of lifts on Agatha, and then, you know, maybe, you know, she becomes like the witch character that she was back in WandaVision, you know, becomes evil again. And then, you know, maybe she contacts like all like the Westview citizens to kind of like rise up somehow. Maybe she teaches them, you know, how to become witches and warlocks themselves, and maybe they start like this kind of revolution or something. You know, maybe there'll be more like flashbacks to time with her and her mother, and you know, maybe she'll be kind of like the new kind of Scarlet Witch of this new iteration. Maybe she'll team up with Kang and become like one of his right-hand women or something, and you know, take over the multiverse and whatnot. So like I didn't really know too much about what was going to go on with this show, but you know, just based on like this casting and stuff like that, you know, it kind of gets me a little bit more excited. And you know, hopefully there'll, you know, be more developments with the Westview characters and with Agatha, and we'll get more set up for King Dynasty and Secret Wars. So yeah, we'll see. So we actually got a couple updates for Agatha Coven of Chaos. Looks like it'll also be pushed to 2024 as well. We also got confirmation with some of the casting. There's an actress named Patti LuPone. She's going to be playing a character named Lilia Calderu. Apparently she's a 450-year-old Sicilian witch who's a member of Agatha's coven, and she has skills in divination. We also got confirmation on an actor named Joe Locke, who's going to be playing a familiar, and Aubrey Plaza is actually going to be playing a witch in the coven as well.
Thunderbolts. We'll move on to that one. Looking forward to this one. I know this one will be kind of like the MCU version of Suicide Squad, and I think, you know, having James Gunn, who directed the Suicide Squad, not the first Suicide Squad, which was but the Suicide Squad I saw was actually really good. So maybe if James Gunn, I don't know how involved he's going to be in it, or if he's going to be involved in it in general. I don't know if he is, but if he's kind of like comes on as like a writing consultant or something of like, hey, this is how you kind of form a team of anti-heroes. Like, not only did he kind of master that with the first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies, with having these kind of like anti-heroes kind of form a team, but he also did it with the Suicide Squad, and yeah, that movie was amazing in my opinion. So yeah, I think kind of bringing that aspect into Marvel will be really cool, just because you have Bucky Barnes and John Walker and Ghost and Alexi and Yelena and Val and all these like disparate characters that are just like on the fringes of the MCU, where it's like, oh man, how are they gonna kind of coalesce into one team and everything, which I think would be really interesting to see. So I definitely wasn't expecting them to make this kind of movie, because they first announced it at D23, and I was like, wait, they're doing a Thunderbolts movie? Because I know the Thunderbolts are big in the comics, and you know, Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is the one who's kind of like trying to form like the anti-Avengers who do like all the stuff that the regular Avengers wouldn't do. So I was like, wait, how are they going to do that? And then they kind of announced all these different characters that are going to be in it, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that'd actually really be really cool. So I'm glad this is a movie. I think it could have been cool if it was a series, you know, and every episode kind of centered around a different hero on the team. But yeah, I'm glad it's a movie as well, because I mean, obviously all these characters are already established in other movies and series and stuff, so we already kind of know who they are. So to kind of just see them all kind of come together into this one team would be really cool. And then obviously seeing them in Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty would be really fun dynamic, kind of, you know, bending the rules in a way of like, you know, what it means to be a hero and what it means to like fight all these supervillains and stuff. So I think they'll have a really fun dynamic. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this movie, and I think it could be really, really good. But yeah, I'm already kind of imagining like the different character dynamics, kind of like how it was in the first Avengers movies, where all these characters just hate each other. Like, it'd be interesting to see Bucky Barnes and John Walker on the same team, how they kind of conflict, how Yelena and Alexi kind of conflict, because yeah, we've kind of seen them all in these separate movies and series, so to have them all come together would be really entertaining to see their interactions and everything. And then maybe they'll kind of tie it into Quantumania, since I know Ghost is going to be in this movie. Maybe the post-credit scene will be an interaction with Ghost and Janet, since they kind of had like, you know, this alliance to kind of help Ghost kind of, you know, get over her illness, her transparent abilities to kind of, you know, solidify herself and everything. So it'd be kind of nice, like that would be like the hint to kind of draw them into this whole multiverse saga and everything, where yeah, there would be like a post-credit scene where like Janet mentions Kang and how they need more allies to face Kang in this threat, and then, you know, maybe can throw like Loki and Sylvie in there as well, have that whole dynamic. But yeah, overall, I'm really looking forward to Thunderbolts. I think it'd be really cool. I mean, I love all these different characters that are on the team, and I think their dynamic just in general will be really fun, and then how they're kind of brought into the multiverse saga would be really, really interesting as well. So yeah, I think there's really a lot of hope for that one.
So there's actually been a couple updates with Thunderbolts. A writer named Lee Sung-jin is going to be rewriting the script, and originally it was done by a writer named Eric Pearson, who wrote Black Widow and Thor Ragnarok. So I guess he's just doing another pass on the script, probably due to Marvel's kind of tweaking of the different projects that are currently going on. And it looks like it's going to be a team up between the director, Jake Schreier, who they worked together on a show called Beef for Netflix. As for the casting announcements, Steven Yeun, who worked with Jake and Lee on Beef, has been cast in an undisclosed role. And then an actress named Ayo Edebiri, who's on the ethics show The Bear, is also cast in an undisclosed role. So we'll see who they end up playing. Maybe they'll be good guys, maybe they'll be bad guys, maybe they'll be some kind of anti-heroes, kind of in the gray area. But yeah, I'm excited for these casting announcements, and we'll see what happens. And originally they're going to be filming in June, but then due to the writer's strike, production's been delayed along with other projects, which I'll get to in a second. So once again, hopefully we'll see if this writer's strike will end pretty soon, and then all these productions can continue moving forward. But yeah, that's that's been the latest for that project. Hey, jumping in again. So the only real update with Thunderbolts is that it's been delayed to December 20th, 2024. Like I said earlier, due to the writer's strike. So we'll see if it makes that date. And, you know, like I've been saying before, hopefully the writers and actors will come to an agreement with the Producers Guild, with the counter agreements that they've been presented with, and the strikes can be over, and then production can resume, and we can get our MCU movies again. But yeah, we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, that's the only real update with that.
We'll move on to Blade. I don't really have too much to say about this one. I'm really excited to see Mahershala Ali in the role of Blade. You know, I loved him in Luke Cage. He was definitely the best part. Or, spoiler alert, they killed his character halfway through the series. I'm just like, what? And I think anything that he was in was definitely the stronger half. The second half of that season was just like, eh. But yeah, he was definitely the best part of that show as Cottonmouth. And then him as Uncle Aaron in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You know, he has that great voice, that intimidating voice, and then also as a Prowler as well. It was cool. So it was finally seeing him, you know, as a hero in the MCU would be really cool. I haven't seen the original Blade. I've seen the second one, but I haven't seen the other ones. But I really like the tone, the aspect of those movies, kind of like the darkness, you know, fighting off vampires and everything, and, you know, bringing in the fantastical side of the Marvel Comics into the MCU would be really fun, because I know they kind of hint at Moon Knight, and with Werewolf by Night, maybe they're forming kind of like the Midnight Suns. Again, I'm not really familiar with that storyline, but I know like a lot of friends of mine were talking about that, so I think that could be cool, kind of like where they kind of like this dark Avengers universe where they can all kind of team up. You know, you have werewolves and vampires and mummies and stuff like that in the MCU on a team. Like maybe this can be like their version of the Universal monster movie universe that they were trying to start with The Mummy with Tom Cruise, but that didn't go well. So maybe this is kind of like their version. It's like, hey, we're doing our own version here. Sorry for you guys, but at least we're succeeding. But they probably won't do that. But yeah, just seeing, you know, more tie-ins with Eternals, just because so far there's not really anything that's kind of hinting at Eternals at all. So I think kind of bringing them into the story would be really cool. Maybe like this is another aspect to bring them in, because of the post-credit scene of that movie was Blade talking to Dane Whitman's character, talking about the Ebony Blade, and kind of tying that in, because that's the tool that both their characters use in the comic books. I read up on that. Having them be brought into the story through this connection between Blade and Dane Whitman would be really cool. And then also kind of tying that into Adam Warlock, maybe having an alliance with Pip at the end of Eternals, kind of bring in those two worlds together. It'd be really cool. So you have like Adam Warlock, Pip, the Guardians, Blade, Dane Whitman, Eternals, all kind of forming this alliance, and then them kind of moving on into the larger MCU, and then facing Kang in Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars would be really cool. But I think Phase 5 is kind of what I wish they started up Phase 4 with. Maybe I'm kind of like overthinking it, but I guess Phase 4 is really just kind of the introduction to some of these essential characters, you know, tying up loose ends from Phase 3 and then setting up stuff for Phase 5. But it's kind of nice to see, like, okay, now things are starting to roll out with this multiverse saga. Things are finally starting to connect. Things aren't just kind of thrown randomly at the walls. Things are really, you know, starting to come together. Yeah, I'm really excited to see that kind of connective tissue finally, and everything kind of come together for the next Avengers movies in Phase 6. So yeah, to kind of bring it back to Blade, I'm glad that they kind of have that tie-in to the larger MCU. But yeah, again, I don't really have too much to say. We don't really have too much to go on with what they're going to do with Blade, and I'm not super familiar with the character, so I don't really have too much to be excited for, so to speak. But I love Mahershala Ali. I think he'd be really cool to be in the MCU, and yeah, I'm looking forward to see, you know, what aspects he brings to the cinematic universe.
So there have been a couple of updates with Blade that kind of tie into one another. The first one is that a writer named Nick Pizzolatto has been hired to rewrite the script for Blade, and he was a writer for True Detective Season 2 that Mahershala Ali actually worked on. But then a few weeks later, the writer's strike happened, and he's actually not allowed to have any input for the story. And it's also been announced that the production's been delayed due to the strike. So we'll see how long the strike lasts, because if it lasts too long, then the production will continue to be delayed, and then it might not actually make its release date. So kind of like I was saying earlier, hopefully the WGA's demands are met, and hopefully they can resume filming again, and these films and series can go back into production, and they can meet their scheduled release dates. So we'll see what happens. Hey, jumping in. So the only real update with Blade is that it's been pushed to February 14, 2025. So again, due to the writer's strike, we'll see what happens with it. Been hearing reports that it's going to be harder and harder for Mahershala Ali to stay in shape for this role, and I'm sure he's going to be wanting to do other roles besides the role of Blade. So we'll see if this movie actually happens, or if they'll just kind of take it off the slate of the MCU for Phase 5 and everything. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Like I said before, you know, I'm not a huge Blade fan, so I'm not going to be devastated if they take it off the slate, but I know a lot of people are fans of Blade, and I love Mahershala Ali as an actor, so to see him in the MCU would be really cool. So yeah, it'd be too bad if they keep delaying this more and more, or if they just take it off the slate, but we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, not a surprise, all these strikes that are happening are delaying all these movies, and like I said before, hopefully these strikes will end and these productions can resume and we can get our MCU movies. But yeah, that's the only real update with that. Okay, now we we move on to the TBD projects, the projects that have been kind of taken off the main schedule due to there just being a lot of overcrowding with the films and series that were announced previously. So hopefully they'll get release dates sometime soon. We'll see how it goes. But for now, here are my thoughts for
Ironheart. Don't really have too much to say about this one. I really like Riri Williams' character in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I thought it was really cool seeing two black women in MIT, or I guess three black women in MIT, with like Okoye and Shuri recruiting Riri for this adventure. It kind of reminded me of Civil War, of Tony Stark recruiting Peter Parker's character to fight on his side, where this is kind of like the flip side, where at first it was kind of like two, white men, and now it's like two black women, two genius black women interacting and everything. I think it'd be really cool to see, Riri's life within MIT, being this 19-year-old child prodigy, and kind of like the fallout after the events of Wakanda Forever, because I assume she's going to be like all over the news and everything, of like, being in her like Ironheart suit, and everyone's going to be coming out the wazoo to like, get to know her and be friends with her and stuff. So it'd be kind of interesting seeing that whole dynamic, because I know there's been a lot of actors who've been casted in this series of like being like her friends and her enemies and her mentors. And yeah, speaking of which, I'm looking forward to seeing Jim Rash as like the dean of MIT, because I'm a big Community fan, so seeing him as the dean in that show and then seeing him as a dean in MIT would be really funny, just because I he had that cameo in Civil War, so it makes total sense that he plays a dean in another show. So yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I'm looking forward to like the tone of this show, just because how she was portrayed in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. She was kind of like this tough character, but she also had like this kind of comedic side, and obviously she's a genius and is good with engineering and machinery. So it'd be really cool to see that kind of like the flip side of Tom Holland's Peter Parker character in the MCU. And then the villain, the Hood, Anthony Ramos, big Anthony Ramos fan, Hamilton, In the Heights. It'd be kind of cool to see him in the MCU. And I know there's going to be like some kind of tension between them, like they're going to be like maybe allies and become enemies, where Riri kind of focuses more on like the technological side of the MCU, and then Anthony Ramos, the Hood, is going to be focusing more on like kind of like the magical, mystical side. So it'd be kind of fun to see, science versus magic. But I guess like earlier on in Thor, where it's in my world, magic and science are one and the same. So we'll see if they ever address that. But I think it'd be cool to see, a mystical villain against a mechanical hero. Be really a fun dynamic. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to seeing this. I know obviously we haven't seen any footage or trailers or anything for it, but just based on the casting and the premise and what we saw from her in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, it gets me excited for it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this series, and I hopefully, fingers crossed, it gets to season 2. But if not, I'm excited for 6 episodes and seeing her in the future of the MCU.
So the only real update for Ironheart is that it's going to be scheduled for 2024, and kind of like what I was saying previously, it's kind of part of Disney's strategy of kind of delaying projects and having some breathing room in between projects. So I'm glad that we finally got a confirmation that it'll be coming out next year, just because a couple months ago it was kind of up in the air of like when it was going to be released. So glad we got some kind of confirmation. Maybe it'll come out maybe like November of next year, kind of like when Black Panther Wakanda Forever was released last year. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, hopefully they'll use this time to make the show good, and because I'm really looking forward to it, and yeah, we'll just see how it goes.
All right, then we move on to Daredevil Born Again. Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. Just getting those little hints of Matt Murdock in the MCU, like in No Way Home, where he's like the lawyer. I mean, everyone in the audience just kind of like flip their lid for that scene and kind of finally see him, because yeah, as I said before, the first 3 seasons of Daredevil on Netflix were some of my favorite series. It was probably was my favorite Marvel Netflix series at the time. So to see him finally back in the MCU, I know he was in She-Hulk, which was clearly the best episode in that show. If you want to hear my thoughts, you can watch my previous video on that, but I won't dive into that. But yeah, just seeing him in the MCU, seeing Wilson Fisk as Kingpin, hinted at in Hawkeye, and then finally he's going to be in this Daredevil Born Again show. It's going to be really fun. And I think I read reports that they're not going to continue the storylines that they left off from the Netflix version. This is going to be a whole new story, clearly Born Again. So yeah, we'll see what the tone is for this one. Is it going to be like a lighter tone? Are they going to keep the dark aspects of the show? I think if they kind of like had a mixture of both, because clearly Marvel's not afraid to have like a darker tone in their shows. Like Werewolf by Night was definitely very violent, where I was like surprised, like, oh shoot, this is on Disney Plus. But I mean, I didn't mind it, but I was just like, yeah, if you have kids watching the show, I was like, oh shoot, just based on the tone they had in Hawkeye, kind of having like that kind of TV-14 aspect to the MCU, I think would be really cool, where it can be violent but not too violent, which I think they can do perfectly. Just based on even like past movies, like Civil War, like Infinity War, there's like some pretty brutal scenes in those movies. Anything the Russo brothers touches, like you get that gritty feel. So having that in Daredevil Born Again, I think would be really cool.
Hey, did just jumping in again. So I found out that John Bernthal is actually going to be casted in Daredevil Born Again, and he portrayed Frank Castle / the Punisher in the original Daredevil series. And I guess there's kind of like some discussion of like how violent is he going to be, you know, how Disney Plus friendly is he going to be. And, you know, as I talked about previously, you know, Disney Plus isn't afraid to go dark. Like I said before with like Werewolf by Night, it was like pretty violent and everything. So I think they're going to lean into kind of like the TV-14 aspect with the Punisher. So I think that would be really, really cool. And then I know Vanessa from the original Daredevil series is going to be in as well, portrayed by a different actor this time around. So we'll see how it goes with that. And then I found out that the actress who played, you know, Karen Page and the actor who played Foggy Nelson are not going to be in the show as well. So that's kind of unfortunate, but I know like they're kind of trying to reintroduce kind of like the MCU version of Daredevil. So I guess with this version, like they don't really want to address too many things from the original series. Like I have a feeling they kind of want this to be more of like a Matt Murdock centric show with Punisher and, you know, Wilson Fisk kind of in the peripherals in it as well. So we'll see how it goes. I like those characters in the original Daredevil series, but I'm sure like with this iteration, they just kind of want to switch things up a little bit. I know there's like other actors who are cast in this show as well, actors that I'm not really familiar with, but I know some of them were saying like that some of them are supposed to be like a love interest for Wilson Fisk, and maybe a couple other ones will be like a new ally for Matt Murdock or, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see the Punisher in this new show, and yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I think what they can really draw from is kind of like the whole duality with Daredevil, where we have like, you know, he's a lawyer by day, superhero by night, which they hinted at in No Way Home and in She-Hulk, but now they can really kind of get into that a little bit more, you know, where She-Hulk, you know, kind of failed. This can be part lawyer show, part superhero show, where, you know, maybe every episode he's dealing with a different case, where, you know, this can kind of be like the reboot, so to speak, of She-Hulk, which She-Hulk tried to do, where, you know, it can be like a procedural drama in the first half of the episode, and like by the second half of the episode, it can be like he can be, you know, taking on criminals and everything, and kind of show that duality. It's just like, okay, do I take on these criminals in court, or do I take them on in the streets with my fists? You know, I think that would be a really cool, interesting aspect for his character. You know, Charlie Cox is great. You know, he's like, he hasn't made anything bad in the MCU ever since being in it, so I think he can bring a lot of like gravitas to that role, and then kind of bring that duality and that conflict that he has. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. And then as for Wilson Fisk, I know this one, he's going to be injured, so I don't know if this is going to take place before the events of Hawkeye, or if it's going to be kind of leading up to those events, or if it's going to just take place afterwards. But I think having the setup in Hawkeye, the through line in Echo, and then having a resolve in Daredevil Born Again would be really cool for his character. You know, I don't really know what his arc is going to be in this. I don't know if he's going to be like a super huge villain, bent on revenge for all these Marvel heroes, or if he's going to be like more humbled in a way, because he kind of had that side in the Marvel Netflix version, where he kind of had, you know, the sensitive side, you know, with Vanessa, his wife. So yeah, maybe being shot by Echo will kind of humble his character a little bit more, and, you know, maybe he becomes like an ally for Matt Murdock, and maybe he kind of betrays him in the end because, you know, he wants all that revenge they had from the Netflix version of Daredevil. But yeah, I think it'd be a really interesting dynamic, you know, have like that kind of Batman Joker relationship where it's just like are we allies or are we enemies? Or if, you know, if this kind of joins Kang, you know, in a way, I'm not really sure how he'll do it, but maybe he can kind of become more of like a ground level villain while Kang is taking over the overall multiverse and everything. And then maybe Fisk can become like an ally in Secret Wars or something at the last second. Maybe pull a Loki in Infinity War where he actually tries to go after Thanos, and, you know, Thanos kills him off in a sacrifice, or like Wilson, you know, tries to betray Kang and, you know, gives his life for Matt Murdock. But yeah, anyway, that's all kind of speculation. Kind of overall, I'm excited for Daredevil Born Again. Yeah, I think it could be a really cool just reboot to this character now in the MCU. So yeah, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm really excited for that one.
So the only real update with Daredevil Born Again is that production might be delayed due to the writer's strike. There have only been reports that when it was filming in Queens that they had to shut down production due to the writer's strike and all the picketing that's been going on. Apparently they're hoping to conclude filming in November, but we'll see what happens with all the production delays due to the strike. Speaking of which, has been kind of delaying other projects as well, including Blade. So we'll see if they actually wrap up filming in time and if they can actually make their early 2024 release. If not, they might have to delay it to summer of 2024 or late 2024. So we'll see how all this happens with the writer's strike. Hopefully the demands will be reached for the WGA and this writer's strike can finally be over and all these production can resume and kind of continue on schedule. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's only the real update with that. And that's the video. Thanks so much for watching. Overall, I'm still excited for Marvel Phase 5. I know they kind of had a stumbling block, but, you know, I'm still excited. So I'm hoping that with this whole new shakeup at Marvel with Disney spreading out the films and the series a little bit more, because, you know, with Phase 4, like they were just piling on the different movies and shows and nobody really had time to like really watch anything something through, and it just really felt like quantity over quality. So I'm glad that Bob Iger is stepping up and saying like, hey, we need to either shelve some projects or delay some projects or have a little bit more breathing room between projects. So I'm glad that they're doing that, and I'm hoping that it'll be kind of like an upswing for Marvel, and that they'll kind of be kind of like the conquerors of like, the box office and everything like they were before, just more quality films and series. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, and let me know what Marvel Phase 5 project you're looking forward to, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.